All right, for more on this Panthers 37-27 loss at Seattle, let's bring in Chris Lee, who's home on the mic, ready to fire off some hot takes. And speaking of firing, the Red Rifle, career high 58 attempts in this one, Chris. You know, it's funny, everything's relative, right? If Bryce Young had these kind of numbers, I feel like we'd be saying, we've got a quarterback. But that's not giving the full context of the story. What did you think of Andy Dalton?
I thought you were going somewhere else with that firing. I didn't know where you're going with that. No, Andy Dalton did a good job, and he got more yards in one game than what Bryce Young got in two games. And I think what we saw as far as the difference between the two is that Andy Dalton, with his 13 years of experience, he understands that he's behind a compromised offensive line. He understands he's going against a defense that's tough and that will blitz and come after him, and he knows how to look for his guys down the field. You saw that the Panthers were going for longer throws, longer plays than what they have all season. But here's the difference. One of the reasons he had to throw 58 times is because, like, the 20 that he missed, well, he missed some of them pretty badly, just himself, right? And that's with Bryce Young. Here's where Bryce Young is better. Bryce Young is still hitting people in an accurate way, right? So you saw some plays where maybe the drive could have been extended. Maybe guys could have had a longer pass play if they just would have been hit right there in their hands or on the numbers. And Andy Dalton didn't miss a few guys. So that's the give and take right now that you have for Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. If Bryce Young learns how to throw it down the field and trust, where he's going to put it at right there, then, he's definitely for sure a lot better than Andy Dalton is.
Well, I think I know where you were thinking I was going with that first question now, bringing up the concept of firing, because a lot of fans not in love with Frank Reich right now after an 0-3 start. And we talk about all the passing. Where was the running? And is this really the best outcome we can get from this Panthers roster right now? So through 3 games, what's your evaluation of Frank Reich?
Man, all right, the same teams. And of course, there's some differences. Kenneth Walker didn't play. A few of the Panthers players who were on this roster didn't play the last time. But these two teams played in week 13 or 14 last year. Right? Panthers win that game. They have the ball 39 minutes of the 60 minutes. And of course, in that game, of course, led by Steve Wilks, over 200 yards rushing. Right here in this game, 44 yards rushing. Now, part of the 200 last year was Chuba Hubbard having 14 carries for 74 yards, had 1 carry today. And then Miles Sanders, 9 carries today. That's just not good enough. And the rushing attack has been completely non-existent the last 2 games. Also, this is supposed to be an offensive staff that's supposed to have these great offensive ideas. I still believe that, 1, the play calling is bad, and 2, that this is not a creative offense. There's nothing that the Carolina Panthers are presenting on tape for these other teams to look at, to be afraid of. Like, oh man, we have to be worried about this particular call, or we have to be worried about this particular formation. There's none of that there. Now, I will say that DJ Chark looked a lot better today. He had the hamstring injury, which is why he didn't play in week 1, still a little compromised last week. And you saw what he could do a little bit more healthy. Adam Thielen being Adam Thielen, doing his thing. But other than that, there's nothing about this Panthers offense that scares you. And you start to wonder, what is Frank Reich really doing? Why did this team regress? On paper, this roster is better than the roster that faced the Seattle Seahawks back last December. But this looked like a much worse team. They're regressing somehow or another. And so now you just have to question what's going on with Frank Reich. And, oh, yeah, I know we're about to talk about this, but penalties. This was almost a historically bad game for the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I'm talking about not just for the Panthers. I'm talking about in the history of the NFL. They were 1 away from tying a record. We'll talk about that in just a second.
Yeah, 13 penalties, 82 yards, none worse than the back-to-back false start penalties that killed a drive when they were down 9 with 8 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. That really ultimately is what doomed them in this one, Chris. That and the injuries. They lose, add in Shaq Thompson from the last game, Frankie Louvu, Xavier Woods, C.J. Henderson, Jonathan Mingo in this game. So what is the bigger concern to you? The health of the roster or just the discipline of the coaching staff and the roster going forward?
I mean, normally you talk about the health, right, because you want your guys to be there. But Mingo with the concussion, Xavier Woods with the hamstring, we don't know how bad that is. Louvu with the hip, Anderson with the ankle, unless something changes drastically in the next 24 to 48 hours, a lot of those injuries look like those are guys that could possibly be back by next week or in another 2 weeks. Maybe this doesn't look season ending or hugely significant like other injuries that we've seen so far this year, unless something changes, right? So now the thing that I'm really worried about are the penalties. 8 false starts today. That's the most by any team since the Bears in 2011 when they had 9. And so that's what I was saying. They're one away from it being like historically bad. And I hate to do this because we love our former NC State players around here. But man, Ikem Ekwonu, what is going on? He's also a part of that. When I said earlier that it felt like this team regressed, he was playing some of his best football towards the end of the season last year, especially at Seattle last year. Now at Seattle, 3 games into the season, bro, what is going on? Chandler Zavala getting blown up and having guys literally push him all over the field. So I don't know what's happening with this team right now. The penalties are bad. The offensive line isn't playing the way I thought they would play. And now you got the penalties like mounting up on them. There's not a lot that we can say is going well for the Carolina Panthers. And I'll leave you with this, Pat.
Yeah.
Frank Reich used this one word, and I agree with him. Pathetic. On all fronts, it's just been pathetic.
Here's another word I heard a lot of. If this, if we did that, if this. You start using if a lot, then you're going to get a then, meaning then you're looking for a new coach.
If was a 5th, we'd all be drunk.
Well said. Can't add anything more to it. Chris Lee, I think I need a drink after that one. Appreciate it, man.
Me too.